Figured it out. Well done. Yeah. All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. Jerry, Jesse, appreciate you joining in. For those watching, we have Nicole Vickers in the room and Brett Rowlett. We've got 3 agenda items to go through. We've got to approve our minutes. We're going to review what each of us found on our homework search, and then we've got a time for questions and comments, and we'll also figure out any next steps at that point. So our first item of business is to approve the minutes from the January 27th, 2026 meeting, and I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. The minutes from the January 22nd, or rather 27th, 2026 meeting are approved. Are there any discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Each of us had a bit of homework to do in the last 6 weeks or so. And I thought that if we could each give kind of an overview, a summary, if you will, of what each of us found, I think that would be a place to start. And then we can go on from there with our discussion. So in no particular order, I've got Jesse, if you'd be willing to kick it off and just tell us who you researched, what you found, and kind of some general takeaways.
Yeah, so I ended up doing the League of Oregon Cities, City of Eugene, and found some Salem stuff, and then was able to find some information on Chemeketa, Clackamas, and Portland and Mount Hood, and then also did some digging with ACCT and talking to some folks in DC, and there was no real guidance from ACCT. It's just kind of like you should set that on your own. So that is kind of from kind of the bottom working up. Otherwise, like League of Oregon Cities, pretty self-explanatory in that sense as well. Like, here's some very preliminary, like very broad, I guess is probably a better word, guidelines on you should have this as an opportunity. People should probably sign up first. You should probably set a time limit on each person, and then the cities kind of go from there. So more of the in the weeds was City of Eugene, which some of us may be familiar with. Same when I serve on the budget committee in this essence that people can sign up. It's 2.5 minutes per speaker. They're completely shuffled out of order and they limit it to 90 minutes. And once it's at 90, it's over. And if you didn't get picked because there was too many people, you just kind of send your email or try next time. So kind of there's how they go about it. One of the things that City of Eugene was had, and then a couple of the community colleges, I believe, that there was a little bit of back and forth ability between the city councilors and and for Eugene at least, but board members and what the public comment was, which, I think we've kind of established that may not be an avenue we want to go down because of how time consuming that could end up being. But if there was a specific topic discussed, there's an opportunity in some instances to kind of have a response there. So that's definitely something that I thought was a little bit interesting. But there's also one of the other things, and I'm just I don't want to read every single thing about these. So I think it was Chemeketa, or no, it was, I'm sorry, Portland, that the remarks must pertain. No, I lied about that one. One of them has that the board chair can say the comments were out of order, basically. I got to remember whose it was because it's been a minute since I pulled these. But that was another thing that can be done that I kind of noticed in some of these was, it was repetitive. Like repetitive comments. If it was like the same exact thing over and over again, it seemed like they had a piece in there. And again, don't take this as me like advocating for this, just kind of laying this all out to bear, is that there was a board chair could deem things repetitive and we need to move on so that we can get more hear from more people. So again, nothing too I'm not sure if I learned anything that was something we didn't already know about, I guess I would say, unfortunately, is that, they put a time max on some are shorter than others. City of Eugene's 90, some of these community colleges are 30. They all have time minutes or time limits on how long each person can speak, but the overall limit being, some 30 to 90, some not having at all, and just like we do and just let it go. So that's kind of that, and then also some opportunities for written comments as well. If you can't make it to the meeting, like accepting them to be part of the public record via email. So maybe there's a specific email inbox or something set up that way. Like obviously folks should still feel the opportunity to email each of 7 of us, but definitely an opportunity to also have an inbox for comments that way. So that's, before I keep rambling anymore, that's kind of, I guess, what I gathered. I don't know if you two have questions for me or something, but happy to answer.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that was kind of the overview that I was hoping for, Jesse. So, kind of the salient, the pointy parts of the information that you gathered. And so we'll each have an opportunity and we'll have a chance to ask each other questions or, perhaps start putting together a short list of possible recommendations that we could put for the entire board to consider.
Could I jump in really super quick, Kevin? I'm sorry. I found what I wanted to reference, and just want to make sure that the point comes across.
Sure.
That from Chemeketa, it was the chair may rule out irrelevant or unduly repetitive remarks, is what they put in theirs. And Clackamas County also has they have a repetitive comments may not be permitted, and that there's another one. Board will not hear any comments made regarding individual staff members. So I just wanted to make sure that I did find some of that, because I know that has been a topic that we've talked about. It's come up a few times. So I just wanted to make sure that that was kind of out in the open for folks to hear. So
thank you. Jerry, what'd you find out?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My assignment was to look at Lane County. And as soon as I finished that, I sent you an email, Mr. Chairman. I hope you still have it. Perhaps you could enter that in the record. Ryan Siniger is the chair of the board right now. He also happens to be my chair. Very friendly conversation, very helpful. He really wanted to shed light on this. No big surprises. They've got a 3-minute time limit. People sign up at the day of the meeting. There's a lot that operates with the discretion of the chair. The chair can extend the time. The chair can rule out of order. So that's how they operate. I also found, he also said that on rare occasions, board members can interrupt a speaker or ask follow-up questions. Also, if an item is scheduled for a public hearing or a quasi-judicial matter, they would not permit testimony in the sign-up, but you'd have to come to the hearing. That's what I've got so far.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And just to make sure I understand your request to make sure Nicole has the email that you sent me, was that the email where you made some suggestions about how to change the committee, or was that was that just the information that you just relayed to us?
It was that information.
Yeah, I did send that to Nicole, and I will tell you it was a little bit tardy because I got it and then I forgot. And so,
okay.
Yeah, you reminded me and I sent it off. So
thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Okay. Yeah, let's hold off on questions. I'll make a brief kind of overview of what I found. It's going to be, I won't try to repeat what you all just said, because I found a lot of the same kind of consistencies across the 16 other community colleges in Oregon. And so I won't you've already brought up, Jesse, many of the kind of common policies. I looked at it kind of from a macro point of view and said, well, there's about, depending on how you categorize it, there's a dozen or maybe a little more kind of common categories where, for example, people must sign up before the meeting. People can only sign up for themselves. There's a 3-minute limit per speaker. Those sort of categories, and there's 12 or 13 of those. And so I did a kind of a frequency analysis of, well, who has what? And that was kind of interesting. And just real quickly, it had little to do with the size or the enrollment of the particular community college. So I went into it thinking, well, the larger community colleges were going to have more of these policies, and the smaller community colleges were going to have less. That wasn't always the case. So a handful of our smaller community colleges actually had, all 12 or 13 of these policies. And I did find that Lane Community College was kind of on the lower middle of that frequency analysis. That is, we were kind of in the middle of the pack. We didn't have as many as some, we had more than some. And so that was interesting for me as well.
More what, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, more of the policy. So, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, so, I'm saying there's 12 or 13 or maybe 15, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Lane was kind of in the middle of the pack, if you will.
Thank you.
Yeah. There were a few, I'll call them policies, that maybe they're more procedures. There were a few procedures that Lane doesn't have that I'm going to make a recommendation that we should have, and you have both mentioned some of those. So I'll hold that till the questions and comment part of the agenda. But that's my 30,000-foot overview, and it sounds like all three of us found very, very common things across the agencies and organizations and community colleges that we looked at. Okay, questions. Any questions for Jesse? No questions. Yeah, I don't have any questions. All right. Any questions for Jerry? Nope. Oh, this is going to be easy. Any questions for me?
Oh, sir.
I just looked at a note that I had, and this isn't really a question, but it pertains to the city of Eugene. And I'm sure you caught this. I think it was this week. The city announced a change to their policy where they prioritize new speakers, or maybe you could speak to that, Jesse.
I actually hadn't. That is something I hadn't clocked, so I hadn't heard about that.
Okay, it came across my news feed. I don't have all the information, but I translated it into my head as they're prioritizing people who haven't spoken in the last 2 meetings. I think I could have that wrong. But anyway, some way to prioritize new speakers, not disallowing, folks who have spoken before, but they're still allowed to speak, but they're behind the new speakers. Okay. At this point, I think we've completed our second agenda item, so we're racing at breakneck speed here. I'm thinking that our next steps in this meeting might be to put together a short list of possible recommendations that we can take to the full board. What do you think about that?
I think we should make okay, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah.
Please.
I like that approach, and I think we should just let it be freewheeling for a few minutes and put anything that you think might be a possible recommendation forward. Keep it in draft form and make a preliminary report to the board covering those points. And I don't know if we want to debate those points now. We could, but I would say each of the three of us should take a crack at, uh, stipulating our most important recommendations. Also, maybe Brett might want to say something.
Yeah. Um, Thank you. Good points. And then, before we launch into this, I'm thinking there might be some value in just reminding ourselves and the public why this committee was formed. And in my mind, and we had a good conversation at our first meeting, but this committee was formed to review and evaluate our public comment policy so that it's better, so that we are more efficient, so that people can be heard, so that our practices are lawful, and that the board has time to complete board business. And so, there was a shared concern about our meetings running really late. And when they run past a certain time of the evening, I know that I'm not at my best, and I've heard the same from you too, that there's a time in the evening where something happens and we're not as efficient. So in my mind, that's why our committee is here. That's why we're doing the work. And I just want to remind the public of that fact.
Mr. Chair, can I jump in with something really quick?
Please.
I received an email from a constituent of ours, but also a colleague of mine from the School of 3 p.m., who is working with a lot of different government entities. And I thought it was a pretty interesting email, and I had forgotten about it until, earlier today when I'd seen it. And so otherwise I would have sent this to you, but it was he reached out and just said, I think it might be wise to start with the goals and values around why we're doing this. And a lot of kind of the questions leaned into that. So I'll read a few, just kind of give you the scope of like what it is, and I'll forward this along too. And I hope it's not too late in the game, but I thought some of them were pretty interesting. And it's basic stuff, but I think it's a good concept and comes from the angle of, teaching this perhaps in class.
Yeah.
But first one was, is it important that students have the first priority in speaking order? Is that something you want to keep doing? Like, can we all agree on that? Probably yes, in my eyes. But is it important that you hear every single person speak? Is it important that speakers attend the meeting live? Is it important that you put a time limit on the comment period? Is it important that you speak in order, that they sign up? It is, and a lot of these we've already answered, and I get this, but I only got three more. Is it important that the audience members hear comments from the speakers? So like, could they just write them in? Is it important that the people you see, people see you listening as they speak? That's another different thing, from the writing in. And is it important that each speaker get a full amount of time? So changing, obviously, some of those are things we have here, but it just seemed like it was an interesting kind of concept to really kind of maybe drill us down a little bit more. But so just wanted to kind of air that out there. And if any of those piqued anybody's interest, maybe that's a starting point for a little bit more of dialogue. But I thought it was a good list of questions.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jesse. I think all three of us would agree that it's going to be really important that this ad hoc process is seen as transparent, goal-oriented, value-based, and the process is solid. Because if the board does end up changing board policies around public comment, that's a very significant thing. And if the process is not solid, then we have less chance of success. So I appreciate what you just brought up very much. Jared?
I wanted to add another value, and I would love it if we started out our recommendations. Recommendation number one is that the Lane Community College Board places a very high value on public involvement and public input, and that these whatever policies we adopt are designed to ensure that we continue to provide for high quality public involvement.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Yeah. Okay. Um, well, let's take a moment now and think about some additional values, if you will, um, and create that list. So, Jerry, I appreciate that's a great first value. I will say the value of prioritizing students should be the second uh, on that list. And I'm open to what comes next.
I think, and again, I'm not sure how we get there because I think it was kind of the guys for why we even have this, convening, is that we want to be more effective as a board. And so I think I'm not sure. I'm thinking through this as I'm talking. We're building the plane as we're flying. Is we value what I'm trying to get at is that we value obviously the first two things that we just mentioned. I wholeheartedly agree with those, but we also value the fact that in order to tackle the things that people are commenting about and letting us know is their concerns, we need to be able to actually tackle them. And if our meetings are running late and we're shutting down at 11 and we're, sitting there for 6 hours and we're not on top of our stuff, we're not able to tackle those items. And so there is some sort of, maybe that lends itself more to ensuring that we have more opportunities for people to submit comment beforehand online and into a public submission instead of just emailing all of us, but they go into the record fully by submitting to a specific email. Or like when I get a budget committee email for the city of Eugene, it's a form that hits everybody at the same time, but it goes into the public record so that it's in the minutes before we get to the meeting or what have you, or the next meeting minutes. I just think that would be. Um, I started off talking about what we value. I think we value getting work done, and I think that is. I think the big piece of this is we need to have the time to get the work done.
Yeah. And, trying to, as you say, build a plan as we're taxing down the runway is always a curious thing to do and challenging. So I appreciate you trying. Um, I think the concepts of board, I see your hand, Jerry. The concepts of board governance should play into that statement as well. Because if we don't have time to, or we're not as effective to get our business done, that affects our board governance. Jerry?
Yeah, I'd be willing to establish some kind of a time cap of either 1 hour or maybe 1.5 hours. And the board could, at its discretion, extend that. But I'm willing to buy into a time cap.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I support that. And I don't know that we should recommend a specific time cap, as you just said. Maybe it's an hour, maybe it's 90 minutes. That's something for the full board probably to decide, but I am supportive of a time cap.
Okay.
Yeah, I would also support a time cap of some sort. I think just saying time cap is probably safer, and then we can all decide as a 7.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, sure.
Also, we generally allow 3 minutes, but we also recognize that if there are more than 20 speakers, that we go to 2. And something along those lines is also, I think that's a good tried and true way to go. That's also the nature of a time cap on individual speakers.
Yes. I think that's important, and I'm looking to Brett now to remind us. I'm pretty sure one of our board policies is very specific about that.
Board policy 2345.
Yeah,
Yes, if you have more than 20 people sign up, it automatically drops from 3 minutes to 2 minutes.
okay. And that's worked well.
Yeah.
Jesse?
Brett, on that board policy, is there, and I could look it up, but I'm sure you have it open right now. Is there a sentence in there that says, and any further discretion for the board to lower that number even further? Like if we had 60 people show up, could we say 1 minute?
What it says is if 20 or more individuals sign up to speak, the time allotment for each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes unless a majority of the board votes to authorize a different time limit.
Okay, perfect.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Discretion.
that works. Okay, Jerry, I remember you saying in our first meeting that and I think we had a discussion about it. This idea about serial reading. And if I remember correctly, the conversation was, well, we probably can't or shouldn't prohibit that, but we could strongly suggest and ask very nicely, say, please don't read a long document and take up the public comment time. Is that what we talked about last time?
Right. And I think you're right. We can discourage that and with a statement, perhaps.
Yes.
The city of Eugene addresses that issue by randomizing the order. It makes it a little tougher to pass from one speaker to the next if you don't know who's coming up.
Right. Yeah. So the randomization of speakers, is that something that you all are interested in?
It's intriguing.
Yeah,
I'm interested,
I'm
but
intrigued.
what's the downside to that?
Well, I have one, and it's more administrative work for Nicole or whomever is doing that job to, manage the randomization. It's doable, but it would be another thing.
You can have Google or AI print you a list of randomized numbers, and that'll just be the order that it goes in.
Yeah. Yeah, Jerry.
Yeah, I think we can go forward on that one in draft form. The only other thing I had was that some way of ensuring that we track that we track what has been said, and we track how we responded to it, and I think we ought to have a record of that, and I guess we do by the minutes, but I want to note that in the record.
Okay, so are you saying that if I came up and provided public comment on the topic of the flocks of wild turkeys on campus, and I'm concerned about whatever, that you're suggesting that I would receive a follow-up on my
Yeah, I think that's a little much, perhaps, but because you might have, well, I guess I'm just concerned that we sometimes hear these things and maybe they're all getting responded to, and I don't know, but sometimes it feels like that just kind of drops out of sight and we never hear from it again. What do you think? I mean,
well, I'll reflect on that by saying many times President Bolger will say and let the board know, we will follow up with that person.
Right. And what about the people that the president doesn't respond to that way?
Well, I guess my response would be, do all public speakers expect a response? I hear what you're saying. I'm having trouble kind of operationalizing it in my head.
Yeah. File that one under continue to consider that issue.
Okay. We'll put it in that box. Okay, thank you. Jesse, it looked like you had a thought that was about to jump out.
I have a couple.
Okay.
Uh, I'm gonna ask the city, some city councilor why, if they have any historical context on why they randomized theirs, like just to see if there was a, were they having a serial reading or something? So I'll send a couple texts today and see if I can get anything back on that.
Okay.
Overall, though, I think I'm supportive of that because I do think it kind of. I just like the maybe shaking things up a little bit is kind of sometimes a good thing. So I think that we should push that recommendation or suggestion forward to the rest of the board, perhaps, is that we consider that at least. And then the other thing that I had was I'm really supportive of the time cap concept. Obviously, we'll discuss what that looks like. But again, if we are able to do some sort of online submission form, like just make it more easily available for people to do that, when we can check with the city or a county or other community colleges and see what they do for that, how they handle that. But I think if we do that, and I I hate doing these things because I hear, echo you, Kevin, on the randomization and the extra administrative work. But if we could just get a number of how many people filled out before the meeting, just so we can say, in addition to the 20 people here speaking to this evening, we received 15 public comments also via email prior to the meeting. We don't need a readout on like what they were. That's on us to read them, obviously. But just a number would be, I think, kind of nice to show that we're still, getting this and we're listening to it and we understand that it's an opportunity, and we open this other ability for you to do that. You can't make it because you don't have childcare, whatever. We want you to still be able to participate in this process. So
Sure. And so what I hear you saying is kind of a coalescing of a previous comment where there's a more formalized way to receive, collect, summarize written testimony that is related to, but a little bit different than what we have right now. So
yeah.
A central email, address where a person could send their written testimony to, instead of blanketing the entire board. They're also free to send it to the board members, but
Yes, and they should continue to do that. But I do think, again, that is just a nice, and whether it's a form on the website or just an email that's just board@lcc.edu, like that, or that's totally fine. But I just think that it would be nice to have that as an additional option and be able to say that's what's happening. So
okay, thanks. Brett was tapping me on my shoulder.
We do have that email address right now. I would encourage you to consider maybe in the policy adding language that encourages people to use that in a timely way to where submissions to that email address can get to you for your review before a meeting. Oftentimes we're getting emails at that address 24 hours leading up to the board meeting. But if there was language that said all submissions before Monday at noon before a Wednesday night meeting will go into the public comment section of the board packet, that gives you all the opportunity to have time to read it all, and it makes sure that it gets in the record.
Okay. So maybe we've got a structure that we just need to better utilize. And I see both of you raise your hand. Jerry, go ahead.
I was just curious what that email was. Brett, what's that email?
It's BOE Board of Ed, so BOE comments
Okay.
at latencc.edu.
Okay. Jerry.
I'm supportive of that email policy that Brett mentioned. And I want to give support to that randomization and how it might serve the public and the board. I think it makes things fairer, because that way the bigger, stronger, faster, who can punch to the front of the line and get there early and sign up, and it shakes that up a little bit and allows for, I think, a fairer application of opportunity.
And that's a great value to include in our work, is that idea of fairness.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Jesse, go ahead.
Sorry, my pick my pet projects. On this email, Brett, is there a way to find out? Like, I just searched it, and I don't believe I've ever gotten an email. Is that true, or would it hit all of our emails individually? Like, I'm just curious when the last time like it was used. If we could pull that info just really quickly, not necessarily right now, but after this meeting, and just see, how often is it actually being used? Because clearly we've got some legwork to do on our end, but just curious if folks are using it currently. Because it
Yeah,
feels like most of the emails we receive come to all of us individually. That's usually what I see in my inbox, but perhaps I'm wrong.
I'll follow up and let you know. I do know that it's the email address that's used anytime someone signs up for public comment virtually. That's what the confirmations come from. There's also links off, I believe, the board website and various places on the college website. So where those emails go once they're submitted, I'll confirm that and let you know.
Thank you.
And we have, I just want to add if I could.
Yes.
We have in the past, at least while I've been in this role, if I've received a PDF document ahead of time for the board, I do attach it to the public comment section in the agendas. So they have been attached for review. So that process has been implemented.
Right, yeah. So it sounds like maybe we just need to maybe power wash it a little bit.
Yeah.
Make it sparkly. Okay. All right, what about the idea of signing up for your own person and you only yourself? You can't sign up for multiple individuals. What are your thoughts about that? Yeah, Jesse.
I think back to your comment you just had a second ago about fairness. And Jerry mentioned it, I think, as well too. Like, I want to leave somebody can't get there right on time and maybe they'll miss it, but they still want to comment, because they were working or whatever. I think that there's something there, but also it's a matter of, well, what keeps me from going and signing up 30 people? I think the randomization will help, but keeps me from signing up 30 people. And then, the 31st person is somebody who really wants to talk, but they've got to wait now for 30 people in front of them who weren't actually there to sign up.
Okay.
So that doesn't put us in a direction, but that's where my head went.
Yeah, sure. Jerry, any thoughts on that?
I lean towards you need to sign up for yourself, but if someone's disabled, I'm trying to struggle with that and
Yeah.
see if there's a reason or a way, or that's the concern I have.
Yeah, it's a good concern because I think we could inadvertently make bad policy, right? In our efforts, oh, you can't sign up anybody else. Well, what if the other person needs your help, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's a way we can craft that. I'm not sure what it is right now, but
yeah,
just
put that down in the category of to still needs some thought and care, and maybe that's something we can ask other units of government how they're handling that.
well, and also, yes, ask staff here and the president how they might think about that. What about the idea of being very clear that public speakers should not, I hesitate to use the words can't, but I'm interested in avoiding personal attacks on employees. And many of our sister community colleges have very specific policies around this and very specific language. And I'm wondering if you've thought about that, if you think we have a sprinkling of policies throughout our board policies that, have to do with conduct and respect and no attacking people. But I don't know that we have a clear sentence or two in our public policy on public comment, rather.
Well, never being afraid to make a fool of myself, I guess. Uh, I I think we have to lean hard on our chair to keep decorum, and that includes personal attacks. And sometimes there's a line, and it's not real definitive, where strong criticism devolves into personal attack. But I think we've got to depend on our chair to run the meeting in a way and by our own conduct that will promote positive discourse. And even when things are tight, tough, and people just are mad as hell, there's still a way for people to be allowed to speak without crossing that line, that magic line, where it devolves into a personal attack. I'd also like to say that uh, in we had a few rough sessions. The I would say our president is likely to draw some fire. I think all other employees in the organization probably should be protected more than the president. And I say that because the president is an extension of the board. Also, we're in the public arena, and we have to understand that sometimes things are going to get, hostile. But I hope I've made a little sense here. And I guess the strongest point I'm making is that the chair will have to do the job of keeping that decorum. Thank you.
Thank you. I hear what you're saying, Jerry. And I'm wondering if there's value of recommending to the full board that we have a sentence in our public policy on public, or I keep saying public policy, on our policy for public comment that specifically says, a person will be found out of order if they make personal threats. We don't have
Yeah,
that.
well, personal threats, it probably that's a pretty strong, of course, that's not a, depends on the threat, I guess, but you don't, but
Yeah.
you can make some very nasty comments about someone without threatening them. So again, it's a judgment call, and I'm saying that it's vested in the chair to really be tuned into that issue. But I don't mind having some kind of a statement, of course.
Yeah, I think we might be talking about more than one thing here. They're all related.
Yeah.
We're talking about angry or heated or emotional testimony. That's one thing. I just brought up the idea of a personal threat. That's kind of a cousin of that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different. Jesse, how are you thinking about this?
I mean, with all of this also, and I think maybe now that this is coming up, I think that, maybe one of the values that we also say is that we respect the First Amendment. Maybe that is something we should reiterate. Yeah, I think that's a common understanding that we have here, but perhaps just for the public's sake and everyone else and the rest of the board, that we iterate that we support the First Amendment and that your right to not only public comment, but to just have a freedom of speech it still exists in this boardroom. And I think that, to Jerry's point, and I think you're right, Kevin, there's kind of two wavelengths that we're on right now. It's people should feel like they can come to us and talk to us. If they're angry about something, they should feel like they have an opportunity to come and voice that somewhere, and it should be our board meetings, because that's, what we're there for. So I do think that should be there. I think we should, if there's real grievances with a specific individual in administration or staff, like we should probably have that person be emailing and trying to set up a time to go through these things and follow a formal grievance process versus coming and airing everything out just in a public meeting and getting to a point where it becomes a threat. So like encouraging that, again, First Amendment thing, if you want to come and do that at a meeting, you know, within some bounds, and to Jerry's point, finding people in order or out of order is important. But I do think that the threatening piece we need to shut down immediately. Like we should not be threatening our employees. Our employees shouldn't feel anxious about coming to meetings because they could be facing threats from people. That's not a good thing, and neither should any employee at the college. So I think that's important. But you know, and just reiterating, like, let's try and keep some decorum here, and maybe we add a sentence into the to the beginning of the meeting to talk about that too, and no threats, and please try and keep your comments professional to an extent or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
that's
what
good.
I hear all three of us touch on is this value of safety. And we should add that to the list. That's a foundational value. Jerry?
Well, I'm not so sure that safety is I think we could, personal attacks and threats are off the table, should be out of order. And I'm again reliant on the chair to discern that and halt proceedings, make it clear where we stand. I think if we I think we've got public safety officers to take care of the safety, and I don't think we need to put that in our statement about public input. We're not worried about our safety from our public. That belongs in a separate category, I think. It almost invites some kind of thoughts that aren't necessarily good thoughts.
All right, I hear you. I'm noodling on that one, so I'll put that in the noodling box, okay?
Okay.
All right, so we're in this third agenda item, questions and comments. We've had a good discussion about putting a list together. We've had a good discussion about some foundational values that we all agree on. What's our next step as a committee?
Mr. Chair, could we go through the list that we've generated now and try to put those, say yes, 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 and then get them formatted, and we can have a draft that is a preliminary set of recommendations? Is that a good
Yes.
way to go?
That's a good way to go. Jesse, any thoughts on that?
That sounds good to me. Let's
Okay.
let's do that.
I've heard Nicole furiously typing as we've been meeting, and I'm hoping that she can easily bring up this list.
As I'll read through what I have. So, okay, so starting the list, I have the importance of transparency in a goal-oriented process. Recommendation that Lane Community College places a high value on public input and that the adopted policies are designed to support high-quality public involvement. The next one is prioritization of students. And then the next one would be the support of the board's ability to function. And then I'm seeing a process for public commenters to provide their comments in advance in a digital format. Again, language that supports effective board governance. And then we have, these are kind of intermixed, I'm seeing, with action items and values, if that's okay.
That's okay. We're building it.
Establishing a time cap for public comment, and then allowing the full board to debate the length of time. Support keeping the 3-minute individual time cap with a reduction to 2 minutes if there are 20 more speakers signed up. There was a request to discourage serial readings, and then the conversation added the randomization of speakers. There was a recommendation to possibly document any responses provided to speakers. I'm looking at that process. And then bringing the online comment forms and highlighting any online submissions during board meetings. Regarding online submissions, possibly requiring those submissions to be provided by a set time prior to the board meetings to allow the board to have time to review. Support for individuals signing only themselves up for public comment, but also with a note regarding ADA accommodations. Support for reinforcing the role of the chair to uphold positive discourse and intercede if personal attacks are occurring. Proposal to include language that specifically says a person is out of order if they're making personal threats. And express support for including language that respects the First Amendment, and while also including language that strongly discourages threatening language and encourages professionalism. And then the final one is safety.
And safety, we agreed might be an adjacent topic. Did that list satisfy you two gentlemen?
I think it's pretty good. It needs work to get it down into about 8 succinct policy statements. But one thing I would throw in there, Jesse's idea about the First Amendment, that could go with the first value that we place a high value on public involvement and input, and we then support the First Amendment in order to implement that. But one way to go, send out an email with what was just read to us, and we take a crack at drawing up the policies. But we've got most of the work done there, I think.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. Jesse, I saw your hand.
Yeah, on that point from Jerry, I think it would be nice. I think there's, as you kind of already mentioned, there was 2 kind of buckets that those things went in. A value statement that would maybe be like the header of this memo per se, and then the action items afterwards. So I think that once we will be able to delineate those, I think it'll be great. But yeah, overall, I think that's kind of where my head went as I started to write them down into different buckets. But the First Amendment, public comment, involvement is great. We very much value students and the input of our students, and we will prioritize them in public comment. We want to, and we said I don't remember what we said, but I think do the work of the college felt a little better to me than what perhaps was what we had taken down or what we had said earlier. I don't think I had wordsmithed that in my head yet, but doing the work of the college is a value that we want to maintain, and that's why we're going through this process. And then we also want to make sure that there's any avenues possible for folks to provide public comments. Those are the values that we live by as a board in this process. So that's just kind of where my head went when I was writing these down. So otherwise, I think great capture, great scribing. Thank you, Nicole, for all the help.
Yeah, and thanks both to you, Jesse and Jerry. I want to give Brett an opportunity to chime in case there's questions or comments that he's got.
No, I think.
Okay.
You've all done a great work here.
All right. What I'm hearing, and let me know if this is different than what your kind of feeling is, but I'm hearing that we don't need a 3rd subcommittee meeting. Is that?
Well, I would like to see somebody's got to take what Nicole just read to us, and as Jesse said, format it a little bit, put it in order, and there it is. We've got it. So if we can get that done, and maybe we don't need another meeting. If we just, who will volunteer to finish that list off?
Well, gosh, there's three of us here that we could draw straws or something, but the other possibility is that we work on the draft and we come together for a third meeting to agree on that draft. We put our, subcommittee seal of approval on it. And then at the next board meeting, that would be an action item on the board agenda.
Done.
That works for me.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
We make a quick third meeting.
Yeah, we'll have a fast third meeting. And we could probably get that done, in about 2 weeks, okay.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we've reached the end of our agenda and it's 4:27 p.m. So I want to give you an award.
Efficient meeting.
It was
work.
all due to the chair's skill at managing our meeting.
Yeah. All right. And I want to thank staff. So Nicole and
Yes.
Brett for being here, and of course our AV guys, people that are working behind the scenes to make these meetings available to the public. I want to thank them too. All right. Any other thing before we are adjourned?
Not
No.
I.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.